updates, legislation and legal matters.
Good morning. Amy Murdoch, Planning Director. I have a very light list of updates to share with you. First of all, I'd mentioned that Vivian Swenson had established a FEMA training session here in this room on the 20th of June. It was very well attended. We had almost 30 attendees and offered certification credits for the course. So it was a very successful training session. We had building officials, planners, some realtors, so it really crossed a wide swath of professionals. I think I had updated you that the County Parks and Rec Department had been working to construct a skate park in the near future. I just wanted to update you that is occurring, but that it has been delayed and it will be constructed in the spring. They were trying to get it done this morning and just couldn't get all the ducks in a row, but that's going to be an exciting project. To let you know that armored storage was introduced by the county commissioners for the final public hearing on the growth allocation. That public hearing will take place on the 8th of August at 5:35 in the Liberty Building. On a positive note on a project update, I wanted to let you know that the Hyatt Place held its grand opening on the 21st of June. And Jody Schultz did go out of his way to invite planning staff and had included the Planning Commission. I understand that there was a snafu in the Planning Commission's invitations to that grand opening event through an Eventbrite snag, I think. But planning staff did receive their invitations, and a lot of us attended, and it was a really nice event. And I would like to thank the Planning Commission for all of its hard work to bring that project to fruition. The event was a kind of a showcase of how nice the facility is and all of the functionality of the facility. Got a sampling of the event rooms and the kinds of catering that the public could enjoy. So it was a very nice event, and I thank Jody Schultz for acknowledging the Planning Commission's hard work and staff's contribution to the success of their project. So that was very much appreciated. Also, I just wanted to update you that Stephanie Jones, our principal long-range planner, has been plugging away at our critical area update and is also including the woodland provisions update that we had promised to absorb into that Chapter 14 update. She's beyond the halfway mark in terms of updating that plan. We were hoping to have the critical area updates before you ahead of the Chapter 18, but we've been a little delayed on that, but it is still on track, and so we do plan to bring that to you soon. And that brings me to our current agenda item, which is the Chapter 18 update.
I got an invite to the annual Planning Commission annual meeting, which is in Queen Anne's County.
Yes.
Is there something that we all can do or should be doing in anticipation of that?
Yes, I reported out on that last month, okay. But I wasn't going to do that again, but I will because it is exciting. So Queen Anne's County is hosting the 40th annual Maryland Planning Association Commission's annual conference. So we're hosting it here. Our chairwoman, Sharon Dobson, will be delivering a keynote address on the evening of the opening day. The Department of Planning staff has asked that Commissioner Moran address the attendees during the opening morning session. We are working with Heather Tonelli, who is our Economic and Tourism Director, to organize a tour of key county sites for participants at the conference. We have a meeting set up to organize that. In addition, we do want to encourage all Planning Commission members and Board of Appeals members to attend if possible. So please coordinate that attendance with John Shelton. I know he's been in touch with you already. So if you weren't planning to attend, or if you can't attend, that's fine, but we're trying to have a good representation since we are the host county. And the conference is the 25th and 26th of October. So we're early stages of planning, but we're getting the ball rolling, and a lot of the agenda items will be made available soon. They're right now they're calling for speakers and presenters, and that's being organized right now.
I presented at last year's in Frederick, and there were, I would say, over 100 planning commission members from around the state there, so it's a pretty big deal.
It is, yep.
Amy, I'm sorry, what night is Sharon speaking? The
25th.
25th? And Jim, the
Same
morning?
day in the morning.
Same day in the morning, okay.
Yeah.
I did sign up for it. Thank
So
you.
then finally, and just on behalf of Stephanie, who is on vacation this week, I just want to acknowledge that she is our principal planner who is pulling all of these updates together, the critical area update, and she is organizing the Chapter 18.1 update, which we are beginning today. So I'm pinch hitting for her as she's on vacation, but she is organizing this update with a lot of help from our principal development review planner, Rob Gunter, who is going to come up here and help us to co-present when you move to the next agenda item.
Okay, what about miscellaneous staff items?
That was all wrapped up together.
Okay.
Start until 9, because this is a public hearing.
Oh,
All right, so we're on break for 9 minutes.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can go through the introduction and give you the background as to why we're starting the update.
Then we're not on break.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. So, on the heels of the enactment of our comprehensive plan, we are guided to update our zoning code. We are doing it right now because there is a pressing need to do that. I think we all are aware of some of the constraints that were identified in the comp plan update, namely our need to update our growth areas in terms of what mixed-use development means, what commercial development and retail development, what role that development plays in a mixed use, as well as where does residential fit in light of our limited sewage capacity and the updated policy for that sewage capacity availability, which will be brought before the commissioners probably at the end of this summer. So we decided that it's very important to start tackling this in the near term because we know we have projects out there that are dependent upon our coming in line with that comprehensive plan and the sewer policy. So we, and beside the fact, we are 2 comprehensive plans deep without a code update. So we have had, since the code was enacted in 2004, 115 text amendments and 32 map amendments. And that's a really good gauge to tell you that your plan needs to be updated if your text amendments are in the triple digits. So that's what we're doing. We are required to do that through the state land use article, and a lot of federal provisions tell us that we have to update. We, through the comp plan, know that we have social, economic, and environmental changes that we have to absorb. So, and I'm not going to go through these slides. We wanted to put this presentation together for you because as we're starting the update, we have created a website where all of the information, all of the public notices, any materials that are presented will all be made available on that website. So we want this kind of information to be available to the public that sets the legal precedent or the legal standards that guide us to this update and guide the parameters of this update. Also, leading this comprehensive zoning update will be our planning attorney, Chris Drummond. He is technically going to be our consultant on the update. So staff will be assisting, but we are going to be led in the crafting of the language and the consistency with the comp plan, and also working out some of the issues over the years that we have seen that really do need to be addressed. And so Chris has a really great perspective in terms of where some of those trouble spots are located. What is going to be a little unusual about the way we're kicking this off is what I just described to you. Normally, this process is exactly like the comprehensive plan process, where you go through systematically, chapter by chapter, and you update. And then you comprehensively make recommendation to the county commissioners, and then the county commissioners, as the legislative body, adopts. And we are the drafting body and the recommending body. So because of some of those near-term needs, we decided to roll this out in 2 phases. And the first phase is going to look like a text amendment, but it is not. It is a part of our comprehensive update. We just have to give it a legislative number to move it forward. So phase 1, which is the phase we're in right now, is going to look specifically at our airport and gateway district, because we know we have a need there, and that's a good place to start. It's right across the bridge, entering the county. It typifies some of the really complex uses that we know we have to iron out. So we want to get that done first and move that forward, and then we will systematically start bringing you sections, chapters, key points. We'll probably take a little time to review the commercial market, the economics that are in play with retail development currently that has been a challenge. We're obviously looking at changing commercial apartment standards. Overall, what we want to make sure we're doing is reducing the number of pages of our plan like we did with the comp plan. We want to reduce the number of zoning districts, which we set up in the comp plan update, by absorbing the community plans back into one comp plan. We want to make the permitted uses and conditional uses more streamlined by using tables that will be more user-friendly, and overall improve the simplicity of the public's interface and consultants' interface with our plan. And there will be map amendments that will be directed by the zoning text amendments, and you'll see that today. And like I think I've touched upon, we need to focus on mixed use, probably as the first order of business, and we're starting that today. Parking standards, reviewing uses in the agricultural district, especially ecotourism and agritourism. Looking at our design standards, incentivizing infill, renovations, looking at the hazard resiliency that we've highlighted in our comp plan. The Main Street corridor, which we've committed to updating, especially based on a lot of input by Graysonville citizens. Looking at non-residential land uses, and I mentioned ecotourism, and looking at our densities in light of some of our restrictions. So, I also started by mentioning that we have a website where public input is going to be solicited and public information will be placed. We hope to bring all of this information to you at the monthly Planning Commission meetings like we did with the comp plan, and present for final review to the county commissioners. We think this whole process will take under 2 years.
Better.
We think. Which,
Be alive in 2 years.
but that's a tall order. It's a thick plan, and but I think we have the team that that can definitely do that.
We will spend a lot of time unraveling the, well, let me put it this way. Every time we, over the last 20 years, have changed the code, it's like an octopus. And sometimes we don't catch all of the octopus's legs. And so we'll have changed this section, but have neglected to do something over here, and they clash. And it will take some time for us to, I don't remember all of them until I see them and I say, oh geez, we need to fix that. One of the prime examples is 18136, which is has created. I guess we need to leave.
There went your 2-year window. Good, whenever you're ready.
All right, sorry for the interruption. There was an elevator check and it turned on the alarms. So we are back in session. All right, Amy.
So I was commenting about one particular section, which is 18.136, that has created a lot of confusion and uncertainty, and that's an obvious example of something that needs to be corrected. So with that, let me read the notice of public hearing, now that it is 9:07. The following appeared in the Record Observer on June 23rd and June 30th, 2013. Pursuant to Article 19 of the County Code, the Planning Commission gives notice that it will hold a public hearing for a map amendment to the Airport Protection and Kent Island Gateway District in conjunction with the 2023 Comprehensive Zoning Update. This will include amendments to Section 18.1-34, which is the Airport Protection and Kent Island Gateway District of the County Zoning and Subdivision Regulations. Properties affected by this rezoning change include approximately 41.37 acres of land owned by Bay Bridge Marine LLLP located at 337 Pier 1 Road, Stevensville. Proposed for the parcel to be rezoned from the UC, or Urban Commercial, to the Airport Protection and Kent Island Gateway District. Next, approximately 4.7 acres of land owned by Chesapeake Bay Beach Club LLC located at 500 Marina Club Road. Proposed that it also be rezoned from UC to Airport Protection and Kent Island Gateway. And then approximately 3.1 acres of land owned by 214 Bay Manor 21666 LLC located at 214 Pier 1 Road in Stevensville. And it's proposed that the same rezoning occur as to that property. The public hearing will be held on Thursday, July 23rd, 2013 at 9 a.m. We're a bit delayed because of the fire alarm. In the Planning Commission meeting room here in the Vincent Building in Centerville. The purpose of the public hearing before the Planning Commission is to provide an opportunity for all interested persons to be heard on the proposed zoning map and code update prior to the Planning Commission making its final recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. The notice of public hearing concludes by indicating that supporting documents are available for review at the Office of the Department of Planning and Zoning during regular business hours, and that this hearing site is accessible to those with disabilities, and gives instructions to those with hearing impairments as how they might secure assistive listening devices. I'm satisfied that the procedural and notice requirements to the convening of this public hearing have been satisfied. Okay. So we have before us on the screen the map of the area, which is almost the furthest west in Queen Anne's County. To the right as you come over the bridge. Presently, the area that we're discussing is a mix of zoning between Airport Protection Zone and UC being in red. That which is highlighted in blue diagonals is the properties proposed for rezoning to the Airport Protection and Kent Island Gateway Zone. The uses that the UC permit have been found to be somewhat constraining, if that's the right word, for the sort of mixed-use development that has been proposed, particularly for the marina property. Moreover, there, as you are well aware, there's been some consternation, if that's the right word, about the proliferation of commercial apartments and how that does not mesh well with the recommendations of the new comprehensive plan, particularly with the restrictions on the wastewater treatment plant. And the peculiar, and I'll call it peculiar, identification of what are really apartments as an adjunct of a commercial use. It's frankly never made a whole lot of sense. And so that is something that needs to be cleared up. And that is in part why we suggest that that entire area sort of turn blue, from portions of red to blue. The rezoning also, we think, makes additional sense when we review the proposed changes to subsection 34 of the code. Can we put that up? Is that on the? Now, there are some changes that you will notice in what you're about to see compared to that which was delivered to you last week.
If I could clarify that point. So staff, as we are going to do, and as we have been doing, on the Monday before your planning commission meeting, on the Mondays ahead of your planning commission meetings, we're making all materials available to the public for comment. You receive your packets on the Thursday, Friday before, and technically that is correspondence to you. So you are to receive your packets and your information first, and then it may become available to the public. So this information became available on Monday, and the impacted parties who we had consulted with, we did not obviously draft this language in isolation because we knew we were impacting existing proposals. So with the input that we received once this draft was released, we received some valuable comments. There were some points of clarification that we realized that we needed that were unintended by staff. So what we have done since we received those comments is we have updated the proposal that you received in your staff report. We've updated it and highlighted those areas where we were contemplative of kind of unintended impacts in the draft as presented.
You'll see those in yellow as we go through this.
Excuse me a second. What you handed us when we came in today is different than what's,
Yeah, no, that was what was supposed to be sent first, because that deleted restaurants with drive-through. That wasn't one of these changes based upon comments.
We made a drafting error, then you received an update in that chart.
I can
Yeah.
explain that, okay? What you see in yellow here on the screen are things that you haven't seen before,
right,
which are the result of changes that we are proposing and recommending as a result of both our own reexamination and comments from property owners, affected property owners. Can you scroll down to the restaurant with drive-throughs? Okay, see, number 9, that was inadvertently omitted in what you received last week. So that should have been included, and it wasn't. It was an oversight on our part. All right, we can go back to the top. So we are proposing to add some specific uses that were probably implicitly allowed in the airport protection zone, or were allowed in UC, and it seemed to make some sense to bring forward into the airport protection district use permitted use table. Obviously, boat building, boat sales, repair were probably implicitly allowed because of marinas, the existing marina, but we wanted to be clear that they were permitted uses. Bowling alleys, I don't think were contemplated, but they are permitted in the UC, and perhaps that would be an appropriate use of a property in the expanded airport protection district. Number 6, as you see, is highlighted in yellow, and that is new since you received your package. And that was, it makes perfect sense to include that in as much as the Bay Manor property, which has a site plan approval for commercial apartments, is already under construction. And we really don't want to make existing uses or uses under construction non-conforming, which would, if we didn't add this You see, we've eliminated apartments up top, and commercial apartments would not be allowed in the airport protection zone in the future, so that if the current commercial apartments that are under construction were to somehow be significantly damaged or destroyed as non-conforming uses, arguably they may not be able to be rebuilt. And so we have included that number 6, which is frankly going to apply to one property. Now, number 8 is the big change. 9 and 10 are again, we're specifying uses that were likely to be allowed in any event. So, number 8, by eliminating apartments and ultimately commercial apartments, there are no other residential or quasi-residential uses allowed in the airport protection district. And that is consistent with the concerns expressed in the comprehensive plan about the availability of sewer capacity. However, as you well know, we had before us a proposal at the marina property for just that, commercial apartments. And presumably the owner of the property had some financial expectations when it acquired the property, given the uses that were permitted at the time. We have an example of duplexes with accessory slips in or near the Narrows, adjacent to the Hilton. There's 8 townhouses on a property with a commercial marina. And it took a long time for the townhouses to be built, but they're built and they're presumably occupied, and that seems to work for the owners of those townhouses. Of course, there's Narrows Point, totally different arrangement. I think that's a condominium, single-family lots. I don't remember exactly the ownership structure, but those homes ring a marina. So it's different, but there seems to be some desire or market for residential uses adjacent to or part of a marina. So we have proposed that a permitted use in the airport district be duplexes, but if you'll scroll down, that the duplexes, as you'll see, can be no more than 15% of the number of slips. And that the duplexes must come with, in some fashion, use of a slip. That the exact, yes.
How did you come up with 15%?
Well, I'm not going to mince words here. The owner of the property has proposed a certain number of duplexes, and it happens to be close to 15% of the slips in the marina. I'm not going to, there's no magic to it beyond that. And the intention is not for the airport protection zone to become dominated by residential uses. This is a relatively small not terribly intense residential use that would be permitted in what is not intended to be a residential district. But because we have examples in other marinas or near other marinas where it seems to have worked, it perhaps will work here as well.
Chris, could I just kind of piggyback on that explanation to note that we were entirely, when Chris was directing us in our work sessions with staff, we were completely contemplative of the existing uses and some of the investments that have been made. So we were contemplative of Bay Manor. We at first thought about it as a non-conforming use and then thought better of it, which is why you have that update. We, of course, aren't going to dance around the fact that there's a concept approval for the Bay Bridge Manor that includes 174 apartments.
Bay Bridge Marina.
Bay Bridge Marina, what did I say?
Manor.
I'm sorry. Bay Bridge Marina that has a concept approval for 170 apartments. And of course, that was a cause for great concern within the community. But this planning commission was in a position where the commercial use or the commercial apartments were a permitted use under the UC district. So without significant means of rejecting that proposal, because the safety concerns are quite different at that entry point than say they are where we're looking at a site plan that was tabled further south at the Royal Farms. So in contemplating that use that was permitted and the desired outcome to reduce that impact and to reduce the number of units that are residential, the duplex proposal that the property owner had expressed seemed a very reasonable place to land, especially connecting that use to a
To the
marina.
marina. And I will tell you, there was some pushback from the property owner on tying the duplexes to the marina, but as planners, it seemed to us to make, I'm not the planner, to make sense that the principal use is a marina. And if you're going to have some residential use, then there has to be a nexus between the permitted use of the marina and essentially the I don't want to say inconsistent, but if we're going to permit any residential use in the district, it should have a connection to the marina. And there was some pushback, and you'll notice, for example, in your package, if you look at the yellow, look at what you got last week and compare it to what's on the screen, there's a word that's been taken out. And that word is the adjective exclusive before use. What you have says the exclusive use of a slip. And after consultation with the property owner, we agreed to remove the adjective exclusive, which could mean, and we accept this, that the owner of a duplex may, while he, she, or they would be required to have an interest in the slip, they may not use it. It may end up being rented to someone who doesn't own a duplex, but wants to put a boat in the marina. So we don't want there to be any, in the future, we're trying to be transparent about how this might work itself out in the future. We very much hope that our intent, which is that people who buy there also want to use the marina, we hope that that is what occurs, but it may not. And while the elimination of commercial apartments in the Airport Protection District is very much motivated by the limitations of the wastewater treatment plant, it's also fair to say that we receive fairly consistently information that the requirement for first floor commercial is not consistent with market demand in the county, and that first floor commercial tends to go begging. We take a look at the Slippery Hill Apartments across the street from the emergency room. Those remain empty, and it's been finished for 2 years. So there's some reason, aside from the wastewater treatment plant capacity limitations, to perhaps in this district eliminate that requirement. If somebody wants to build commercial retail, that's their choice, but now they don't have to if they want to build residential because it's not permitted, or quasi-residential. All right, if we turn to the next page, there's some bulk standards, which are largely drawn from subsection 36, or amended from 36. And it may very well be that in the future there'll be more of this and less of 36, which just creates confusions, as I mentioned earlier. All right, if we continue on, because the airport was purchased by the county years ago with, I think it was 90% federal money, the county is obliged to honor federal regulations regarding uses around the airport. And the changes that you see here are intended to make clear what a potential development around the airport must deal with pursuant to federal and state aviation regulations. All of this was required before, but it wasn't clearly set forth in Title 18.1, and now it is. We have changed one word, or proposed to change one word in subsection 2. I think what you have before you, the word is directed, and we've proposed to change that to recommended, because the ultimate decision maker for site plan and subdivisions is the planning commission, not the airport manager. And so that it made sense to recommend that change in the language. And if we go down to the next page, this was also a change that was that we thought made sense and was brought to our attention by Mr. Stevens on behalf of one or more of the property owners, to make it clear that the airport manager's role is essentially one of a clearinghouse. That is to say that the airport manager sends out requests for comments to the FAA and the MAA, Federal Aviation Administration, and the Maryland Aviation Administration regarding proposed developments in and around the airport, and then receives those comments and passes them on to the department, who then passes them on to the Planning Commission. And the airport manager is not in the business, so to speak, of interpreting federal or state regulations. And so this language seemed to make clear the airport manager's role in that process.
A little background on that, in terms of staff's perspective, including the airport manager's perspective, if I can speak on her behalf, and I don't think she'd mind in this case. During project review and even permit review, there has been confusion as to what standards are applicable in terms of FAA and MAA standards, and also the automatic weather observation systems. We all call it the AWOS, but there are specific requirements for that weather station as well, which are vital to the pilots flying in and out. So articulating those provisions, which are already in place, was very important for transparency's sake. And it was not the airport manager's intention to assume an authoritative role in this process, only to make that clear that the person in that position needs to have all of those approvals in place and act as that clearinghouse. So that is why you see some softening of that language, because it was never intended to become an over-onerous additional layer of regulation. It was just meant to clarify what the existing layers actually are.
All right, so that's the overview of the proposed map and text amendment changes.
I have one question, sort of fundamental, is why allow duplexes at all? This is a residential use in the Kent Island, airport protection area, which seems to say that residential is not to be encouraged.
Well, I can answer that in several ways. Presently, the properties that we're talking about are zoned UC,
Right?
where residential uses are not permitted. However, we have this peculiar use, which is as residential as it can be, but it's not counted as residential, and that's commercial apartments. I can tell you that the idea of a commercial apartment was created, I think, Joe Stevens may remember as well as or better than I do, but it seems to me that idea was created in the 96, maybe, amendments to the code. In the original, or maybe in 87. And the idea was to give some flexibility to a small commercial development that might have some apartments above it. In places such as Chester, Stevensville, or Graysonville, small lots where there already are mixed uses. And that's in fact what happened for many, many years. To the extent there were commercial apartments, they were created above small first floor commercial, and there might be 4 to 8 apartments above on the second and third floor. And that was making perfect sense. And they apparently were very successful, because I've spoken to people that developed them, and they were always full. No problem renting them. Well, in the last 10 years, that relatively modest concept has morphed into these, 100,000 square feet of commercial first floor stuff and hundreds of apartments above them. While the county has continued, as a policy matter, to resist, permitting what we normally think of as apartments, which go from the first floor up. With the idea that needs to be curtailed, one, because it has morphed into a use that really wasn't intended, and two, limitations at the treatment plant. It seemed, let's say, fair not to completely eliminate a modest residential use that investment-backed expectations may have expected. That's the reason. It may not be compelling or persuasive to you, but that's the reason.
Well, that's another issue, but, are we creating another loophole? And the whole idea of this zoning exercise, in my mind, is to eliminate loopholes, to make it more clear and more explicit.
I think we're pretty explicit that you can have a number of duplexes not exceeding 15% of the number of slips. That's pretty clear. It may not be.
It is clear,
it's not
but
a loophole in as much as a loophole is suggestive of something, a result that was unintended.
okay, I retract that. I didn't mean to imply that, but do I misunderstand that the Kent Island Airport Protection District is not intended to be used for residential?
Well, and to
Well,
clar-
that was, when it was created,
also to clarify, in 2017, the apartment use was added as a permitted use
In the Kent
in
Island?
the airport district.
Okay, fine.
So we're taking that out, and the compromise is, we know we have a project on the books, and we want to honor that.
I understand
And
that,
everything
yeah.
Chris just said.
that's right, the apartments were added. We should go back up, different, this is a bit of a non sequitur. You will, down there. The restaurant with drive-through, which was inadvertently left out of the chart that
Right.
you all received and we've added in, is proposed to be eliminated, and I'd forgotten that was added at or around the same time as apartments were added on the top of that chart in 2017. And that was added when there was, someone floated the idea of a Panera
Ah, okay.
in this district that has a drive-through, and it got added. I'll admit that striking that out on number 9 is, that's me. I didn't think it was such a hot idea in 2017, so, and I still don't think it's such a hot idea.
And restaurants are permitted in the district under retail sales service establishment. That captures a lot of uses too, so. But we thought we were cleaning up some of what we thought were inconsistencies and that you've rightly pointed out. And you're right, including the duplex is an accommodation, but it's a reduction.
Okay, you've answered the question, thank you. Yeah.
You can't look at this and ignore what's been proposed at the marina. You can't do it.
I understand, okay.
Okay.
So can I ask one question?
Yes.
Is it legal to force a change without the approval or the acquiescence of the current owner?
Yes. Perfectly legal.
Is it fair and right?
It's up to you all to decide.
And to your point, we have,
We have a history of that, and we did approve a hotel in that with a restaurant.
Well, you still
In
could.
that same area, right?
You still could.
Isn't that, can't we agree that that might be a form of a commercial apartment?
Hotel?
Isn't that, John Wilson's, Knox, isn't that a hotel?
That's a hotel.
Huh?
That's a hotel.
That's what I'm saying. Is that not a commercial apartment?
No.
No.
All right, we're
But you
we're
can't-
entering in semantics. You have
well, first of
people
all, let's back
renting,
up. Let's back up.
renting
Hotel-
rooms for
wait
short
a minute.
periods of time.
Hotel is defined as a place where people can stay for remuneration for no more than 30 days. So, it's not a commercial apartment.
just to your point
It
of
would be
trans-
permitted.
but-
You could build a hotel on the marina property if you wanted to.
Just to your point of transparency, two points. Staff has not been drafting in a vacuum. Staff has been respectful and contemplative of the uses and of the property owners. This is a very small area, and it was an easy place to start, and it was very easy to do that. But due notice is a part of the comprehensive plan update, and giving due notice that we were moving in this direction. That was putting the community on notice, and we're taking action now based on the comprehensive planning exercise, and that's why we want to be very careful to take advantage of social media, and we have a really great public information officer who helps us to make sure we're reaching out, making sure that we have a website that is accessible so that no one is taken unawares of changes that are occurring. But in this particular case, we were very communicative with the changes that were on the table.
It would be unfair to pull the rug out from underneath the Bay Manor people, because they've already started. And we propose that that not occur with number 6. It is, in my view, changes in land use are a risk of doing business for property owners. And they should be well aware of that. And most are. Or should be.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah. Where do you want us to go from here?
Public comment. Public comment.
Oh, public comment. Do we have anything, public comment? Any public comment in the room? We didn't have anybody sign up. Joe Stevens?
I didn't sign up because I didn't see a sign-up sheet for this matter. I thought it was on.
Okay.
I'll be very brief, though. Thank you very much. I've got two clients that I'm representing here today, Bay Manor and Bay Bridge Marina. And Bay Manor had sent you all a letter. I believe you got that with some pictures. And I'd like to advise the Planning Commission that the changes that the staff and Mr. Drummond have made are satisfactory, address their concerns, and they're very excited about the construction, and they're very complimentary of Amy's inspection staff that's been out there working with them constantly. You can see they're well under construction right now. So thank you very much for that change. It would have been a great concern if it wasn't made, because they would have been non-conforming the day you adopt the ordinance, with $20 million in the ground. In regards to Bay Bridge Marina, I'm also here to thank the staff. They've been working with us, they provided us the information, they listened to the comments and concerns we had, we came to compromise on some matters, and I really don't have anything else to say in that regard. We really look forward to moving forward, getting this done quickly. Hopefully it moves through the legislative process now quickly, and we'll be back before you with a new concept plan that's reflective of the uses that will be permitted under the airport protection zone. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Still nothing online? Okay.
I should think, if we've made the property owners happy, we're doing something right. Right?
Or wrong.
Or something wrong, right?
So we're looking for an approval from the planning
A
commission?
recommendation to the
Recommendation to approve.
commissioners as to both the zoning map amendments and the text amendments.
Can I do them together? Like to make a recommendation?
Okay.
No? No.
All right, Madam Chair,
And if the recommendation, please, would reference the updated text amendment. That which is on the screen.
Yeah. Not text amendment, an amendment to the text.
What's the difference between them?
Well, it's not a citizen sponsor, right? It's a, you've
Okay.
edited.
Right, the edited, right, yeah.
okay, Madam Chair? Okay, be it resolved for the update of the 2023 Comprehensive Zoning Code Update with updated amendments presented on this day, that the Planning Commission makes a favorable recommendation to the County Commissioners regarding County Ordinance Number 23-05 to amend the Airport Protection in Kent Island Gateway District, Section 18-1-34 to update permitted uses and design standards to more transparently recognize the need for new development and to include Federal Aviation Administration and Maryland Aviation Administration airport protection requirement. As well, the Planning Commission makes a favorable recommendation regarding County Ordinance Number 23-06 with any updated amendments presented this day, an affiliated map amendment as indicated in the attachment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We didn't get a
Any
second.
opposed?
Whoa.
Oh,
Second.
oh,
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Any other business today? If not, I will consider my favorite recommendation.
Madam Chairman, I move we adjourn. Make a motion to adjourn?
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?